down in Sydney, but I'm just started the
Great.
recording now. But yeah, no, thanks for coming into the call today, John, to chat to the team and chat on the Prosperity Media YouTube. But yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I saw you down in Sydney when you came down and spoke at the event we were running down at, I think it was Freelancer's office. I can't even
Yep.
remember how many years ago that was, like 6 or 7 years ago. It was a long time
5
ago.
years, 2018. So it's been almost 5 years. Yeah. Long time. Long time. Few
Yeah,
lifetimes. Whole pandemic,
yeah.
it turns out.
Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
was a while ago now, but
Yeah.
that was a great talk that you gave back there. But I mean, do you want to give the team and our YouTube audience a little bit of a breakdown of what you've been up to in the past 10 years?
Yeah.
Everything that's been happening, because I know you've been
Yeah.
up to a lot of stuff.
A lot of things going on. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is John Doherty. I am a veteran digital marketer and serial entrepreneur based in Denver, Colorado, in the United States. So I've actually been in digital marketing and kind of professionally growing companies for about 15 years now. Um, Helped run a book publishing company in Switzerland. I lived there for a couple of years, and then worked for an agency in Philadelphia as a link builder. Worked for Distilled in New York City for about 2.5 years, doing SEO consulting, content marketing, that sort of thing. Working with a lot of great brands there. Went in house after that with Zillow for about 2 years. So Zillow is the largest real estate company in the United States. So I ran marketing on a couple of their brands, hotpads.com, which is their, at the time, their number two consumer brands on the rental side. And then for Trulia Rentals, so we acquired Trulia when I was at Zillow, and I moved over to Trulia Rentals for about 5 months. And then I got pushed out of the nest, as it were. Team and I got caught up in some layoffs and restructurings. And so I went out on my own and been building a company called Credo for about the last 7.5 years, connecting brands with digital marketing agencies. And we've since expanded into actually development and design as well. So it's kind of lead generation for marketing agencies, but connecting up two sides of the market. And then for the last year or so, I've been building a company as well called Editor Ninja. So it's kind of the unlimited subscription model. So we partner with content agencies, content services, and marketing teams to edit the content that they're producing. So we're not writing content, but I have a team of editors that basically take the content they're producing for marketing purposes. For the most part, we have edited some books and some sales copy and that sort of stuff, but for the most part, B2B content, cleaning up that content for them. So that brand is growing quickly. We just hit the 5-figure MRR mark. You have 7 editors and a great team behind me there. So yeah, that's my background, and things are going well, rocking and rolling.
Yeah, nice one. I also saw you've optimized a page to rank for most handsome man in Denver. I was reading something online before, and if you search in Google,
Yep.
yeah, that's I saw someone was talking about that. They're like,
Yep.
yeah, John's optimized this page. Why did you do that? I was just curious. Was that just
It's
for
just
shits and giggles?
for shits and giggles, man. I was actually inspired by Aaron Orndorff, who was inspired by Saul Orwell from Examine.com. So Saul's in Toronto, and he optimized a page to rank for most handsome man in Toronto, and then Canada. And then Aaron saw it, and he optimized for most handsome man in Portland, Oregon. And I was like, that's funny. I'm going to do that too. And so I optimized a page for most handsome man in Denver, Colorado, and have a photo of me up there when you search that, me and my dog. And yeah, it's just, what's the use of knowing how to do stuff like ranking Google if you can't have a little bit of fun with it. So yeah, it's just
Yeah,
a fun thing
that's
that Rio just said every 6 to 12 months. It makes me laugh, so I just forget about it in the meantime. But it's a good time.
I saw you did an interview with someone and they were talking about that, but no, I thought that was cool. But I mean, back onto Credo and how you've started all that. What do you think makes a good agency in 2023? Because I know you'd be looking at a lot of agencies because you've got to vet them before they get onto your platform and all that. But
Yeah,
what do you think makes a good agency these days? Because there's so many agencies. I feel like there's even in Australia, there's all these new agencies that pop up, and then they've been in operation 6 months, and then they say we're the best, and we've got
yep,
like one person working there, and it's like a bit of a front. But what
yeah.
do you think makes a good agency?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, and I've worked with Credo's worked with over 450 agencies in the 10 years that we've been around. It's gonna be 10 years this coming month in February, since I first started it. So what makes a great agency in 2023? So it's kind of a loaded question, but I think there's a couple of things. One is great agency for whom. Because some people are looking for budget, some people are looking for top quality, some people are looking for a specialist, some people just have never done it before, and so they're looking, just to get started. So it's some combination therein, but the best agencies I see, one, they're not just saying we're the best content marketing agency or we're the best, SEO agency in Australia. They can actually prove it. So they have case studies, they have testimonials, they have, happy customers they can show, or happy clients, as an agency that they can, they can show kind of the work that they've done for them, and and that sort of thing. So they can actually, put their money where their mouth is. They show who their team is. So, the best agencies honestly are led by someone like yourself, James, that, have, has a lot of experience. So I think of like, Russ Hudgens with the foundation, or Siege Media with Russ Hudgens, Russ Simmons with the foundation. Sorry, Russ Hudgens. Even Distilled back in the day with Will Critchlow and Tom Critchlow, and, and those guys, like, they have someone that really knows the space, that's kind of leading it that way. And then they also have an operations person. So they have someone that's responsible for the delivery side, as well, right? So like, James, you might not be the best suited for, delivery and account management, that sort of stuff, but you're a good salesperson. You can go and you can network, you can meet the right people, you can get the referrals, that sort of stuff, right? So the best agencies have that really sorted out, that they have someone that's responsible for delivering the work that whoever sold it, whatever they promised, and hopefully they're only promising something the team's able to deliver that you've operationalized. But they have someone that's really in charge, of that, and not someone that's just kind of trying to wear all the hats. So yeah, and then the third thing I would say is they specialize. So they're not just trying to do all things, right? Offer all the things for all the people. They say like, we're great at SEO and content for, e-commerce companies on Shopify doing over $2 million a year, right? That grew 100% in the last year. Something like that kind of shows like, the size of company, which kind of knocks onto the size of budget, the kind of investment that's needed. They're growing. And so they, they see the, they're trying to grow faster. Not just like, but there are some, right? And so it's also like we're not going to work with companies that are struggling, right? Or we're not best for companies that are struggling, right? I mean, there are companies that love that. They love turning around companies. I've done that a few times. It's a lot of fun. It can also be very stressful. And so really putting your stake in the ground of like, we do X and Y and Z for this type of company that's in this stage, spending about this amount of money, right? Because that then really helps you attract the right people and also turn away the wrong people. And the best agencies are willing to say, you know what, we're not the right fit for you for whatever reason.
Yeah, no, we have to turn away a lot of potential leads just because like they're just not the right fit, or it's like a brand new website. They don't have the right kind of budget, and it's like, oh, we want to dominate this space, and like we haven't even launched our site yet, and you just look at that vertical and you're like, well, it's never going to happen. And and yeah, back to your point about being different and all that. We did some consulting calls with I think Tom Critchlow like a year ago, and he said to us, he said, look, don't use wording like we're the best agency. He said use things like our average client retention is 5+ years. He said use factors like that are going to stand you out from the competition, because everyone can say we're the best, but having something to say like this is our average client retention, blah blah, it's like a unique element. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I mean, onto something different, like how do you think agencies can best track ROI? I know that's something that can be difficult based on campaigns. And how have you done tracking of ROI to show SEO results in the past? Because that's always like, it can be challenging for certain businesses that don't have the correct tracking set up. But how have you done that in the past? Because I know you've worked at a whole bunch of companies. You're running your own thing now. How do you think the best way to track SEO ROI is?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there's kind of two sides to it when it comes to like as an agency to your clients. First of all, clients want to see and need to see that you're doing the work, right? It's not just reporting on numbers every month, but they're like, but I don't actually know what you're doing. Like, are you producing content? Are you optimizing my site? Like, what are you actually doing there? So number one is telling them what you're going to do, and then doing it, and then telling them that you did it, right? It's kind of like when you get on stage, right? Tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them. Same thing. Tell them what you're going to do it, tell them what you did. So that's first off. That's just like table stakes. You have to do what you said you're going to do, and of course, you should only be doing the things, selling them the things that you know or that you believe are going to move the needle for them over time, right? And of course, some clients can have unreasonable expectations, right? Like the try it on folks. Oh yeah, we'll try it for 4 weeks and see if we want to keep going, right? Ask for some sort of guarantee and whatever. Those aren't going to be great clients for you. When it comes to reporting, I think there's two levels of it. One is reporting on the things that you've done, right? Especially in the beginning, because that kind of buys you time. Especially if you've sold it well, that buys you time to then get the results. Because SEO, content, et cetera, can take a while to really get going, especially if it's a fairly new website or whatever. It's a more established website. Things can move faster, of course. But then, reporting on two things. One is, traffic is still a great one, right? But not looking at like month on month, because businesses have seasonality, right? Of course, like, ecom blows up in Q4, but then it's less. Like January is basically dead, right? And so they try to run sales and whatever. But looking at, taking into account seasonality, looking at year on year. If you don't have year on year, being straight up about that, like, hey, we're working on growing you. We'll report month on month. We're reporting things that we've done. And a year from now, then we'll have year-on-year metrics, right? So they're not asking for year-on-year metrics and they don't even have them. So part of that too is when you first get in saying, hey, what does your tracking look like, right? Maybe even in the sales process, what does your tracking look like, right? Because if you're coming into a site that doesn't have year-on-year tracking and you're used to reporting year-on-year, it's going to be problematic. So I think that's that's kind of how I look at it. But then not just traffic, not just links built, that sort of stuff. Like, yes, report on that stuff. That's the doing and telling them that you did it. But also looking at the business numbers that you're driving. And of course, not taking credit for that, but saying like, hey, SEO is a channel, not taking, full credit for it, because obviously they probably have teams working on it. They have developers, they have content writers, whatever, but showing that like, hey, SEO as a channel was whatever, 12% last year. And now it's 20%. Business has grown, substantially, or business overall hasn't grown, but SEO makes up a bigger part of the pie, like that sort of thing, can really, go a long ways, as well. So it's hard with SEO, of course, because like, with paid, it's like, well, we spent 10 grand this month and we made 30 grand. So our ROI is 3 to 1, right? With SEO, you have to look at it over a longer time horizon. And I usually try to sell it as like, hey, first few months, right? We're basically setting the base. We're fixing things. We're writing new content. We're starting to build links, that sort of stuff. It takes Google time to get up to speed, blah, blah, blah. Month 4, 4 through 6, we should be starting to see results. And after about month 6, then we can look back and say, okay, what's the return looking like here? But it really comes down when reporting on SEO initiatives. It really comes down to setting expectations that this is a, medium to, to long-term play, at least, medium-term play. And if you get results faster, great. But they're not expecting, to see a pop in traffic in whatever 4 weeks time.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, back to a point you made earlier about client onboarding. I know you said you want to ask the client what's their tracking like during onboarding or sales process. What other factors do you think are important when you're onboarding a client? Because I know we've built like a type form flow where we kind of have all these questions that clients have asked over the years, like different bits and pieces. But like, what do you think is important when you're onboarding a client? Because I think the onboarding process is something that you need to get right. I know, because if you don't set the right expectations, do correct onboarding, have like the right kickoff calls and like planning meetings and things like that, it might not set up the campaign for success from the start. So what do you think is important at the start for like onboarding and kickoff calls and stuff like that? I know you would have been there a bit for that type of stuff.
I've been there many, many times and made all the mistakes in the book, or the book that I could write, I guess, from all the mistakes that I've made. So there's a few things. Number one, onboarding begins before you even sign the client. So, them understanding how you work, what your team looks like, what type of people they'll be working with, what their experience is, that sort of thing. Also, for you understanding what does their team internally look like, right? Like, have they done, well, first of all, have they done SEO before, right? That tells you a lot right there about whether or not the engagement's going to be a success, how much education you need to put into it, how much support you're going to have internally, that sort of thing. I always look for when I do consulting now, which is very rare, and basically it's with people that I've worked with in the past, and they need me to consult with them. But really understanding what their experience is with SEO and kind of what their thoughts are on it, right? Because sometimes you'll get people that they're like, my boss told me I need to do SEO, but I've done it in my last 3 companies. It was always a cluster, right? It was always terrible. Never got us results, and that's going to be a tough one, right? And I would kind of shy away from that. But when it comes to onboarding, basically what's important is making it clear from the start, not necessarily like, individually what your process is, but making it clear that they understand your process. So usually it's okay, once you sign, right, then we're going to have a handoff call. I'm going to, as a salesperson, I'm going to get your account manager up to speed. I'm also going to be on that first call that I can give, I will have given them some context. They're going to ask some questions. They'll probably ask some of the same questions because I'll probably forget something. But by and large, they should be up to speed. But this is an opportunity for you to get to know them and them get to know you. Start there, right? And then after that, then we're going to move into, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, right? You're going to meet your SEO specialist. We're going to and then over the first month, we're going to, after week 2, we're going to have your technical audit done. After week 3, we're going to have your content strategy done. By the end of week 4, we're going to have the first pieces of content in production, right? Like that sort of thing. And after week 1, we're gonna have your analytics reviewed and things fixed to make sure tracking's off, like whatever that is, just making sure that you have a very spelled out process, because clients don't really care what the process is. They care that you have a process. It makes them feel good that they're gonna, they're not just gonna sign and be like, all right, great, what's next, right? And if you're being asked what's next, that means you haven't done a great job of communicating to them what exactly your process is. But I do always say, have a kickoff call, at least 1 kickoff call, maybe 2. Have a higher touch in the first month. Set their expectations that you're gonna have a higher touch in the first month, then you're gonna go to bi-weekly calls or whatever it is. If they need more calls than that, then that's extra. It's a whatever X dollars per month more per call or whatever that is. But really letting them know, like, you're getting this for the money that you're spending. And help them understand what happens if they need more, or whatever, who's going to step in if they have trouble, that kind of thing. So it's really having your own established processes, communicating that to them before they even sign, reiterating it after they sign, and then actually running that process, and communicating with them throughout it. And you also find that if you do that, you're going to be able to sign a markedly higher retainer, simply because you've given them clarity, right? People hire you, yes, to solve problems. But really they hire you to give them clarity on why they're having these problems, and for you to help them get through those problems. So the more clarity you can give them ahead of time, the more willing they're going to be to sign for a longer amount of time and at a higher amount, because they already trust you, that they know what they're going to get, as opposed to like, well, we'll start here and scale it up if we like what we see, right? You're telling them what they're going to see, and so they can know earlier in the process if they're more likely than not to like it or not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good shout, all the points you've dropped about onboarding. But here's a question that, like, this is something we were talking about in the last week, actually. Like, how do you change a client's perception on SEO? Like, say, for example, we've in Australia, there's still, like, in 2023, it's crazy, but there's still agencies that do like the whole PBN model, 1 report a month, will throw your site on PBNs, churn and burn type operators, blah, blah, blah. Whereas we do like all legitimate work, like show you monthly deliverables. This is what we did in the last month. Like, this is how we use your hours. This is like kind of like all the stuff you've been talking about. That's how we operate. But there's still a lot of agencies around the spot, like even in Australia, and I presume in the US too, that do that whole PBN stuff, spit out a monthly report, limited on-site optimization, limited activity. And then you got to change that client's perception of what good SEO is. And it's maybe in some cases a lot more work for the in-house person when you come in and you start doing all this stuff. And then they're like, whoa. Like, for the last 2 years, I've just been getting a monthly report. And I think that's right. SEO. And then now what you're telling me is completely different. How do you think we can change people's perceptions like that? Is that something that we've seen recently with a few accounts that we've won?
Yeah. So I actually don't think it's a matter of changing their perception. It's a matter of only signing more of the prospects who have the right perception before you even sign them. So I do a lot of stuff in the SaaS space, right? I run what I call tech-enabled productized services. So building the service layer, and then I build the technology to help us scale it. I've done that both at Credo and Editor and Engine now, and do it at both. And I was listening to a talk literally yesterday. I was traveling back from Canada, and I was watching this YouTube video by this woman, April Dunford, that she wrote the book. It's about positioning. I forget the name of it. I'm going to Google it real quick. Obviously awesome. How to nail product positioning so customers get it, buy it, and love it. And it was her talk that she gave at MicroConf last year, which is a conference for bootstrap software founders, mostly in the US, some in Europe as well. And she was basically talking about her, like how she coaches sales teams to sell. And what she said was, which I totally agree with, is instead of just like Simon Sinek says, start with why. Instead of telling them like, oh, we do X, Y, and Z, we do on-site optimization, we do link building, blah blah blah. If they're not used to hearing about that, that's not going to mean anything to them. And they're like, oh, okay, I just want SEO, right? Versus if you go in with, you've probably come across a lot of SEO agencies that just talk about, we're going to build you a bunch of backlinks, you keep paying us every month and your rankings stay. What they don't tell you is that if you stop paying them, then your rankings go away because they've just thrown your site on a bunch of websites that they own that are probably going to get slapped by Google anyways. But what we believe is this. We believe SEO has, and then go into your pitch, right? These three pillars. We start with technical, then we build content, then we build backlinks. We focus on both, setting your base and then also building your higher quality, like whatever that is, and message it that way. So you're actually educating them at the start of the sales process before you even get into the individual things that you do. Because most of them, they don't even care about like, what does an audit look like, or what are you producing content and how are you using a content like service like a Verblio or something like that. Like they don't care really. They're buying results, right? And they're buying why you do it, and then after that how you do it. And ultimately the proof is in the pudding. So I think actually we need to start ahead of time. So that then the people that they're like, you know what, I just want you to whack my setup on a bunch of websites and domains that you own. If they get a couple of them get burned, that's fine. I'm paying you to launch new ones and use it to help my rankings. Cool, good to know. We're not the right solution for you, right? But the ones that are the right fit for you, they're going to be what you say is going to resonate, and then they're going to be much more likely to sign with you. So you're going to lose fewer of the deals that you want and not get fewer, and you're going to get fewer of the deals that you ultimately don't want. So I honestly don't think, like I've tried many times to change people's perception. Like at Credo, for example, we get people coming in that they're like, I need 100, leads a month. And I'm like, why? Like why do you need 100 leads a month? Do you have like 10 salespeople that you need to feed leads? Like what's behind that? And they're like, well, it's because, if we get 100 leads currently, we close 2. I'm like, well, what if you got 5 and close 2, right? At a higher amount, like you really need 100 leads, And so actually managing those expectations from the start, and only really working with the ones that are a great fit. Like I told someone recently, I was like, I've given up trying to change people's opinions, right? Like it's too much work. It's a pain. And if your service is applicable to enough people for you to build a great business off of, that's really all we should ask for. So it's a matter of finding more of those right fit people and pushing away, repelling, even to use stronger wording, repelling the ones that are not a good fit.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good point as well. But onto something a bit different. Like, do you think it's good that an agency runs their own like affiliate or content websites? I mean, that's something you don't see a lot of agencies talking about, but it's something we've been doing for a long time. And I noticed that you used to run your own website in the past called Single Geared. I don't know if you're investing much time into that anymore, but
no, but
yeah,
I saw that.
I saw that in your I saw that in your about page. But do you think it's good if agencies do that, and they're actually testing things and implementing different things, like even with all that Yandex algorithm stuff that came out in the last couple of days, you definitely wouldn't test some of that stuff on a client website. But if you've got your own test site, content site, and you find something that you deem to be, oh, actually, this is quite an interesting finding, you could test that on your own site. And then if it works, you could present it to a client, What are your thoughts on
Totally.
like running your own sites and stuff like that? Do you think that's good in a client's perception, or do you think sometimes clients might be a bit like, oh, I don't know?
I think it is seen as a net positive in the right prospects or right clients' eyes. And people that are a little
Mm,
bit more suspicious or a little bit more guarded or whatever, I don't know. Ask yourself if you'd actually want to have them as a client, right? Because they're going to be tougher, right? It's going to be hard to get analytics access, hard to get changes done. Like they're going to second guess everything that you say, right? Like all that, not really worth it in my experience. Some people will take them, and more power to them. I do think it is. And actually, when I was at Distilled back in the day, and I mean this was 10 to 12 years ago, it's 2011 to 2013 that I worked there, but they required, at least in the New York office where I was, we required every person that we hired to have their own personal website, to at least launch their own personal website. We didn't care. I mean, at the time, like Squarespace didn't really exist, but like, so it was like, all right, go figure out how to get hosting, figure out how to launch, how to buy a domain name, figure out how to connect that up to your hosting, figure out how to launch a site, figure like write some content, publish it, right? Just like that kind of thing gives you so much more empathy for your clients. And helps you, I mean, deliver a better work product as well, because you've actually kind of gone through the steps, right? And then especially if you've gone on and grown it, like, I mean, I did it with my own personal site. I actually launched that before I even got the job at Distilled. It's a large reason why I got the job at Distilled, I think. I built my career off of that, right? So it'd be good for you personally. But then also like as an agency, I mean, actually, James, I would say a lot of the best agencies that I know do run their own sites. I
yeah,
think of Kane Jameson at Content Harmony. He also has like a content agency that's pretty quiet, but they run their own websites. I know Siege Media runs their own websites. I know John Cooper from formerly Point Blank SEO. I forget what his company's called now, but like runs his own websites. I think it's a big boon, because as you said, you can try things. If you burn a domain, like doesn't really matter that much, right? But it's kind of a sandbox, right? It's a testing sandbox, and and you could even lean into that as like everything that we do for our clients. I mean, we keep within Google's guidelines. This is our process, and also we have our own websites in various industries. That we test things on, right? That we try things on, and see what got results, and then can roll it out to clients from there. The one thing I will say is. I've seen prospects ask agencies, well, what space are they in, right? They don't want you to have your own website in their space,
yeah,
right? That they're going to be competing against you. So just be upfront about that, like, if you do or if you don't, and let them make the determination about whether that matters to them. Like, don't qualify yourself out just because, but you are probably going to be less likely to win, whatever, a deal if you're running a competitive site. So yeah, for what it's worth. But I think what's more necessary is like, if you're working with e-commerce websites, man, you better launch a Shopify site, right? And know the different
yeah,
plugins and like that sort of thing. Know what's actually good and what's not. Like, yeah, do the research, but then also make sure that you've tested it yourself. So I think it's a net positive for agencies to be running their own websites. Just because you learn so much, even if it's just break even, right? Like, don't even look at it as a moneymaker. If it makes you money, great. But I mean, you're also building an asset that you could probably sell at some point in the future. But it's a great testing sandbox. So I always recommend it. I would never tell an agency not to. Well, never say never. I have never. Let me put it that way. In my experience, I have never told an agency to not launch their own websites if they've asked me about it.
yeah. No, and like that's what I said. I've been doing websites for 17 years, and a lot of our team, they've been running their own sites, and I don't really think it's an issue ever. And I think like I've seen some agencies where they say like you're not allowed to run your own site. That's strictly forbidden. Like you can only work on our job and stuff like that. Is like, are they really going to attract like the right type of SEO talent? Because most of the best SEO people are running their own sites. Even like you mentioned, John Cooper. I don't even think he
Yeah.
does client stuff anymore. I think it's all mostly his own sites. Like, because I saw him years ago when he came to Sydney, and yeah, I'm pretty sure he doesn't even do much client stuff anymore. So I know he sold his he sold his Point Blank SEO blog to Backlinko back in many years ago too. So
Yep.
no, that's quite interesting. But yeah, I mean, definitely some good points. And I mean, just one final question I got for you: how important do you think is forecasting, and how are you seeing people asking for that? Because I know that's something that in the last couple of years, a lot of people are asking for more forecasting, and it's something in SEO you can never guarantee forecasting, because there's many different factors that will determine if a forecast is successful. You know, like how do you know if the client is actually going to implement what elements from what work you plan, and what's their past success? But how have you seen agencies doing forecasts? You know, there's all different methods now. You know, what do you think works best in that space?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and to be completely honest, I think it's still an open space. Like I haven't seen anyone come along yet, like build a SaaS or build a tool or one of the big tools, whether it be Ahrefs or SEMrush or whoever, build like a good forecasting tool. Like I still think that's it's an open opportunity in the space. If someone wants to go build it, please do. But I think there's a couple things to it. One is show them what you can never guarantee that they're going to be able to get it done, right? Which, like, if you want to get it done, then basically get them to pay you to do it, right? But there are going to be times where it has to be big technical changes or whatever. Their platform just isn't going to allow it, that sort of thing. But first of all, just show them what the possibilities are, right? Go blue sky and be like, hey, you're at whatever 25,000 visits a month from search to your e-commerce site. Your biggest competitor has 10x that, right? So you have big upside. I'm not going to say you're going to get there, but that's ultimately what we're working towards. Show them the breakdown of their rankings, show them the breakdown of their rankings by search volume, like that sort of thing. And then basically show them the gap, show them the opportunity that, like, you're at 25,000 visits a month. Your competitors at 250,000 visits a month. They have 5x the backlinks that we do, right? If we build on average X links over Y period of time, then, within Z months, we're gonna be more competitive with them, right? We're at least gonna have more traffic. I can't promise you we're gonna take traffic from them, but that's our goal, right? If we can get to 75,000 visits, which is gonna mean, at this type of investment, it's gonna go to content. We need to update these content pages, whatever. All those things that you kind of dig into, you're showing them where they could go, and then you're talking about moving in that direction. So I that's the way that I like to do forecasting, and I like to talk about it. Show them what the opportunity is, tell them what it's going to take to get there, give them the data, right? And show them that they need whatever, they need more links. There's this gap in links. Their page is 500 words long, their competitors is 5,000, so we need to bulk that up, right? Probably need to republish it on a better URL, like whatever those things are. Give them some examples like that. You don't have to give them every single answer, right? But these are the types of things that we're going to do that are going to show us forward progress, right? And then every month we're going to report on our, from the campaigns we're running, our, rankings improving, is traffic improving, our conversions improving, because none of this is worth it if you're not actually making more money, right? That's how I like to do forecasting, and kind of set that trajectory. I mean, you can do some stuff in I've done it in just for internal growth modeling in my companies, kind of broken out if traffic keeps increasing by 10% month on month, then 12 months from now we're going to be here, right? And then every single month tracking it and kind of seeing how are we doing, in kind of on that trajectory. Some months are going to be up because of seasonality, and some are going to be down and algorithm changes and whatever. But at the end of the day, a straight line is never a straight line. When you zoom in, it's always kind of like this, right? There's a little circle and whatever. So, we're not going to promise straight growth like this, but that's ultimately where we're going. And if you show them that tracking as well, you point to where you're going and then show them over time kind of how you're trending that way. That also lets you kind of catch we're supposed to be going here and we're actually going here. What we need to rethink our strategy here. We need to at least look at it and, and adjust it so we can get back, on the growth trajectory that we're supposed to be on. Give yourself and them the benefit of a true north like that, by looking at their competitors and showing them, this is what the opportunity is. And then, setting the strategy to march towards that, and being collaborative along the way, and transparent with them. If numbers aren't where they should be or numbers are better than they should be, make sure they know that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think just looking at competitors and things like that, But on that note, I'll open up the questions to anyone else in the team that wants to ask John a question about anything that we've talked about today or anything else that we haven't talked about. Does anyone have any questions for John?
Yeah, I got one. I was just wondering how you keep staff kind of up to date or like kind of motivated to keep in the loop of SEO news. You know, it's something that's just continually like evolving and changing, and like, you know, this whole Yandex kind of drama that happened over the weekend. Like, how would you kind of get your staff on board with it all?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And also remember, I don't run an SEO agency. I don't employ SEOs. I have in the past. I've hired SEOs internally at agencies and such. There's a couple things to it. Number one, it starts from the top. So if you're not reading and you're not studying and you're not you're not geeked on it and staying up to date on it, they're probably not going to be either. So it starts there. And I think so it just really starts with modeling it yourself, right? Also look, sharing things with them, right? Hey, this is an interesting piece by, Michael King, right? Apple Rank, one of my closest friends. He just published a thread over the weekend on the Yandex thing, and I haven't kept up with the Yandex thing super closely, by the way. I was on an anniversary trip this past weekend, so I'm still like kind of catching up on it. But I saw that he published a thread and they published a piece on Search Engine Land today, and kind of helping give, some of the signal, I would help people. I would say like, hey, this is what went on, right? Here's a piece that I think does a good job covering it. I trust Mike because, he has great experience. If you want to, your clients are probably going to ask about this. So you should at least have an opinion on it. So I'd start here and then you can go deeper, right? Here's some other people that have published some things, and then kind of let people, go from there. And dig in as much as it affects them or doesn't affect them, or but really what you're trying to do is you're trying to be proactive, and help them be up to speed on on these things. I'll be honest, it was way easier back in the day when it's like subscribe to RSS feeds and such, and it's like, all right, I got the Moz blog, I got Search Engine Land, I got Search Engine Journal, I got Search Engine Watch, like I have all of those. Now it's largely Twitter, where a lot of us get kind of the sound bites and then can kind of click on deeper. So I think really like there's so much content out there, right? And there are people that are posting stuff that is like, well, that is objectively wrong. And so really like helping your team figure out like, who to trust, who not to trust, who to listen, like help them get the signal instead of the noise. Cause it can be really overwhelming, especially if you're like a junior, right? You got 6 months of SEO experience. It's like, someone's telling you, red is blue, and someone's telling you red is green, and someone's telling you red is red. And it's just like, look for the red is red, look for the people that are bringing the signal, and try to point your team, more towards that, so that they're not, also like there's a lot of stuff that goes on. And so like, you can't spend all day keeping up with, everything that's going on. Like help them know the important stuff and flag it up for them. But otherwise, they really should be focused on doing great work, for their clients. And if something is going to affect their job, they should know about it. And, I don't know, maybe you have like, I worked with an agency before that they had like this wasn't their official title, but basically it was the person in charge of like keeping tabs on what was changing. And if something needed to be changed, they were like their chief knowledge officer, where like they were the person that was reading everything because they loved doing that. And then they would flag up the good stuff. Something's changed, or this Googler said something that, contradicts what we believe. Like, let's dig into that more. I dug into that more. Here's what I think, like that kind of thing. So even having like a point person that's kind of accountable for that can be really useful as well, to kind of disseminate the necessary, high signal, correct information.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Good advice.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And thanks for speaking today as well.
My pleasure.
John, I'd love to dive in a little more on your work with Credo and everything that you've kind of been building there over the last few years. How do you find opportunities to innovate in a space like that? And it'd be also really interesting to know how you deal with the trials and tribulations of a business model like lead generation, and if you've had any issues there, or how you seek to kind of optimize processes on the back end there to make sure everything runs smoothly.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been running Credo it started 10 years ago this coming month, here in like 4 weeks. So like, it's been a long time, and a lot has changed. the innovation thing is an interesting question, simply because like, I mean, at the end of the day, like the basics don't change, right? Whether it's SEO or content or PPC or whatever, like, yeah, the nitty gritty kind of changes, but I've kind of accepted, to be totally honest with you, just to be totally transparent and candid, I've kind of accepted that it's not my role to be the one that's like trying to keep people up to date. There are so many people that do that, that love doing that. I'd rather focus on the people that are like, we're looking for solid Google Ads people. We're looking for solid SEO, a solid SEO agency that, you know, in e-commerce that has proven experience over time, right? Like I'd rather focus on that and kind of like keep into like the first principles there, as opposed to like innovating and, you know, oh, this, you know, and part of it too is just because like different agencies do things in different ways. And if we're trying to be a platform that serves a lot of agencies, some are going to be doing AI stuff, some aren't, some are going to be building their own site, some aren't. Like, we just can't really keep up with that once you get to a big enough of a scale. So that's why we've kept really focused on like first principles. With Editor Ninja, it's a little bit different. With the like, especially because we're focused on like content agencies and marketing teams, and the, you know, the AI chat GPT stuff and AI generated content. You know, generative AI is the term that I've heard for it. Like that's a new development, right? So we're kind of trying to be on the cutting edge there. We're working on what does a generative AI like editing service look like? So editing content that's been generated by AI. Like what does that look like? How does it fit within the, you know, the confines of editing, right? Where it's not writing, but we actually are editing and working with what they've given us, that sort of thing. So you know, I do think there are places where you can innovate. And for example, like what we did with Credo at the start, especially, and we just leaned into it even more, was, you know, realize we're not a freelancer platform. We're not really a consultant platform. We're an agency platform. And then also focusing on the higher end, right? The more expensive, whatever, and actually having an application process. So I think we have about 175, 200 agencies like within the Credo network right now. We've had at least double that apply. And we've turned them down. We've turned down ones that are not the right fit. So we actually put a stake in the ground and said, like, this is the kind of agency that we want to refer leads to, that we're generating leads for. And if you're not that, like, you know, we're no judgment, but like, we're just not a good fit for you, right? Kind of what I was saying earlier about qualifying people up from the start. We made it very clear up front who we are a good fit for and who we're not a good fit for. And then I forget what the second part of your question was, Darcy.
That was just about understanding or like working through lead generation as a business model and some kind of the problems that can kind of come with sometimes, and streamlining that process and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I think something that we haven't done a good job of at Credo, just to be completely candid again, is really looking at like lead generation on like a campaign sort of basis. Like we've always done it as like kind of a nationwide sort of thing, or even like continent wide, right? Like, you know, people looking for e-commerce SEO agencies or something like that. And we match every lead up with multiple agencies. It's not just like, oh, you need this one agency, right? Just generating leads for one, specific agency, but we have 6 great e-commerce agencies or whatever, right? And you know, knowing their budgets and like that sort of thing. And so then our challenge is basically having enough agencies to be able to match every client with every person coming in, every lead. I hate that word, but every lead looking for, you know, agencies, while not having so many that we're getting asked like, hey, when am I getting more leads, and that sort of thing. So like that honestly has been like the main challenge for us, simply because we're not like, you know, trying to generate leads for a, you know, Denver auto, you know, Denver car wash, right? That sort of, I don't know what you call it in Australia, but like a car wash, you know, sort of thing. Like that would in some ways be an easier business model than what Credo is. Yeah, I think the biggest challenge for us, just being like not focusing on specific locales or geographical areas, is kind of that balance of like not having too many providers, you know, to too few leads, not having too many leads to too few providers. I'd rather have the second problem than the first one, though, to be completely honest with you. But it's always been like there are always more agencies looking for leads than there are people looking to hire agencies. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but like those are some of the challenges we've come across.
That's some good insights for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Thanks for coming on today, John. I know we've got to wrap up the call. But how can people get in touch with you if they want to get onto Credo, or they want to find out more about Editor Ninja, or they just want to find anything else about you? How can
Yeah.
they contact you?
Yeah, so the best place, I mean,
Twitter.
the best place to follow me and you know, kind of see what I'm thinking about and talking about is Twitter. At Doherty JF, my last name JF. I'm basically that on all social media sites, Instagram, Facebook, etc. And then so Credo is getcredo, GETCREDO.com, Editor Ninja, just like it sounds, .com. And my email for both is just John at whatever domain, whichever business it's more pertinent towards. So that's the best place to contact me. Thanks for having me, guys. This has been fun.
No, thanks for coming on, John. It's been great to have you, and hopefully we'll see you in Sydney again soon, one day.
Hey, invite me down and I'll come. I loved it, and I've been jonesing to get back to Australia and New Zealand. So you tell me when and where, and I'll be there.
All right, I appreciate it. But no, thank you for your time, and we'll speak soon. All right, see you, mate.
All right, y'all. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, John.